Guys, the NBA season is in full swing, and what better way to enhance your game day watching experience than with Underdog Fantasy? It's super easy to play. It's as simple as picking higher or lower on players' stats. For example, I'm going to go higher on Russell Westbrook's 13.5 points against Dallas tonight since he's averaging over 20 points a game in his last 4 games. You can win payouts from everything from the NBA to the NFL playoffs and even the Australian Open. You play fantasy sports anyway, why not get paid for it? Minnesota is an eligible state, as you can see on the map on screen. Use our promo code TWolves and use the link in the description and get a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's a free pick just for signing up. Again, that's promo code TWolves and use the link in the description when you sign up. And thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the video. Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, usually joined by Chris Emerson, who is running a little late, but he may join later on in the video. And as mentioned before, make sure to get signed up for Underdog Fantasy. Use the link in the description and the promo code TWolves for a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Thanks so much to Underdog Fantasy. And make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. So the Timberwolves, they get the win last night over the lowly Washington Wizards by a score of 120-106. I know that we were really watching those of us who were watching the game and weren't watching the Vikings game, like the sicko like me. Actually, I'm kind of glad that I missed that Vikings game. We were watching the spread because if you bet on the Timberwolves, it came down to one basket because the Wolves were 13.5 overdogs, I guess you would say, and they barely got it done with that. So what I saw last night was sloppy play in the first half. Not ideal play in the first half. A lot of turnovers. And Coach Chris Finch talked about it. He said that the team has kind of an even keel personality. And I think that sometimes that can be to the negative. I think they're a little too loosey-goosey with the ball a little bit and can turn over the ball a little too much. By the way, join the conversation, give us a comment, and I would love to respond to your comments. I think that the Wolves do have a big turnover problem with this team. They are currently 23rd in the NBA in turnovers a game. Actually, the best team with the worst turnover margin is actually the Memphis Grizzlies, if you can believe that. The team that just beat us by 2 a couple days ago, and some sloppy play down the stretch, which we'll talk about as we go on from your Timberwolves. But overall, it's been good ever since the Wolves went to the Dante DiVincenzo starting lineup. And in fact, I have a couple stats on the starting lineup so far with this team. I mean, the results speak for themselves, right? Because 4-1, that's the first one you got to start. But over the past 5 games, the starters, Rudy Gobert, a plus 30. Julius Randle, a plus 47. Dante DiVincenzo, a plus 41. Or a plus 21, I should say, a plus 21. Anthony Edwards, a plus 40. And Jane McDaniels, of all people, a plus 28. And almost all of the starters, when was the last time you could say this? Over the past 5 games are averaging at least 10 points a game. Rudy Gobert is actually the only starter that isn't averaging 10 points a game in the last 5 games. He's averaging 9.6. So right on the precipice, but still getting the job done. And we've seen success out of it. We've seen the ball move a little more with this new starting lineup. And that was a big problem a lot of the time this season because you saw Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert weren't contributing at all offensively. And when you have 2 guys that the defense isn't really worried about, plus you throw on that Jaden McDaniels, which I know that Chris had that stat where he's shooting somewhere like 17% on quasi open threes, which is crazy for a starter of that caliber, 3-and-D guy of all things. But when you have 2 or 3 guys in the starting lineup who cannot score, that is your problem right there. And you got to find, and it clogs the driving lanes for Anthony Edwards. It clogs the paint for Julius Randle because the defense doesn't have to respect you. And what we're seeing in the last couple games is a lineup that is playing much better. I mean, DiVincenzo, let's look at that game against the Memphis Grizzlies. The Wolves are nowhere near winning that game, although Ja Morant did have a bad game in that one for the Grizzlies. But, I mean, a great performance out of DiVincenzo. He did take that one rush 3. There have been some turnover issues. But overall, I think DiVincenzo has been the shot in the arm that this team has needed. And it really helps both fronts, right? Because there were always those reports that Donte DiVincenzo was unhappy with the trade. He didn't like coming off the bench. Well, we're giving you the opportunity now, Donte, and you are paying dividends so far. It's just, and I think that Mike Conley blessed this move. I know he said in the interviews that he was a little disappointed about moving to the bench, but I think he got over it very quick. And Mike Conley, I will say, he's been very good off the bench as well, playing with that second unit. And we've seen Julius Randle had another efficient night last night, I believe 20 and 10. That's what we want to see out of Julius Randle on a night-to-night basis. And he's doing wonders with that second unit. He's putting up 5 to 6 to 7 assists a game. And this is a stretch by a big stretch of the imagination, but he's almost like a mini Jokic, nowhere near as efficient, nowhere near as good, especially on the offensive end. But you do see the glimpses there, here and there, and you love to see Randle playing well. Now, how much can we take from a Wizards win, particularly one where it took until the fourth quarter to pull away? I don't know. That remains to be seen because, guys, the Washington Wizards are a bad team, and they were banged up. They didn't have Marvin Bagley Jr. They didn't have Malcolm Brogdon, who's a great player off the bench, former Sixth Man of the Year. They didn't have a couple other players as well, and they're just a young team. And I was saying during the game, the only way that the Washington Wizards can stay with us, the only way that the Washington Wizards can stay with us in this game is if we turn over the ball. Because, I mean, look at the stats. As they said on the telecast, the Washington Wizards are the 30th ranked offense and the 30th ranked defense. They're the worst team in the league. Now, granted, we took care of business in the fourth quarter and were able to put in the scrubs at the end, but how much can you take from that win? So here's the way I look at it, right? Pretty much all of, maybe minus a few teams, but basically all the teams that we are fighting against for seeding, Denver, Dallas, other teams like Memphis, potentially, the Lakers, they're all most likely gonna win that game against the Washington Wizards. Some might not, and some might not have already. I haven't seen the Wizards' full schedule yet or their full results, but all of them most likely are going to get that win, probably 2 wins against the Washington Wizards. So it doesn't take away from the win because, like I said, you got to go out and get a win. In reality, it was a double-digit win on the road in the NBA, which doesn't come that often for us. And man, Anthony Edwards was great, particularly in that fourth quarter. I actually said in the group chat, I said Ant is costing us this game early on. Then he goes to have like 34 more points after I said that. And he was just awesome. He was on one. And he said after the game where he said that he tells Mike Conley and he tells Donte DiVincenzo, fourth quarter, give me the ball. Give me the ball in the fourth quarter. And that's exactly what you want to hear out of your franchise player. You want, you want your number one player to want the ball. You don't want him to be skittish. Now, obviously, sometimes, excuse me, the defense can break down, or the offense can break down, and you put up some bad shots, and hero ball comes into play. We've talked about that on past podcasts, but you want a star who wants to be the star when the lights are brightest. And credit to Washington. They had some Ant fans there. Like Ant said, it felt like he was at the crib after the game. He said that he felt like he was at home with how much love the Washington fan base was giving him in last night's game. And he said also last night that he realized that they weren't doubling. Why he had troubles in the first half was he basically, after all the doubles that he's been getting, and we'll go over his stats so far in a minute, after all the doubles and attention that he's getting, he thought, okay, the Wizards are just going to send two at me. They're going to try to knock me out of the game, which a lot of teams try to do, which Memphis kind of did, to be honest. Although I thought that Ant was much better going to the basket against Memphis. But I thought that Ant realized that, oh, they're not doubling me. They just have one guy on me, and he can win that matchup 9 out of 10 times, almost 9.5 out of 10 times against one guy. And he actually talked about the turnovers. And I don't know if this is a great solution, but he said that the way that he can cut down on turnovers is just letting the ball fly. Like, for example, it seems like he tries to drive the lane and try to penetrate and try to create a little too much through passing, and then he gets stuck. I also see that Dante DiVincenzo gets stuck when passing a lot. He had 3 turnovers last night, but he said, I just got to trust myself and let the ball fly. Let the shots go off. And, I would rather have a contested Ant 3 than a turnover. So, and plus, he's still shooting over 30%, 40% from 3 this year, which is crazy. I heard them say that on the on the Score North podcast that they have, Howling with the Wolves, or whatever it's called, the Score North podcast. I heard them talking about, you know what? I completely lost my train of thought. So we're gonna back off on there. I completely forgot my train of thought. So let's go into how great Rudy Gobert has been recently. Because he had those 6 blocks in that one game. He's been great. He's been scoring. And I feel like we haven't been forcing him the ball. We've been getting him the ball in the tone of the offense. I feel like there's sometimes where the Wolves go into a game, particularly the starters back with Mike Conley, and it was, hey, we have to get Rudy the ball because he's playing such good, almost like a pat on the back. Like when you would play T-ball and you would get a ticket for a free hot dog or something like that. Like a pat on the back, like, there you go, Rudy, here's some offense for you. But I feel like we haven't been doing that early in games, and we have been using Rudy in the right way. I mean, he's shooting like 68% from the field in his last 5 games, and I think we haven't been forcing him. We've been playing him within the rhythm of the offense, which I think has been amazing. And then anchoring down low. It's just what he does. This Rudy Gobert is so important to this team. And I know there's tons of people online who said, oh, we traded the wrong big man. And maybe offensively, yes. But like Chris likes to say, first of all, the Knicks have lost 5 out of 7 games, but they are vulnerable inside. Now, will some of that help out with Mitchell Robinson when he comes back? I don't know. He's not even in full 5-on-5 yet. He's not even running yet. So who knows what'll affect that for the Knicks. But talking about the Wolves, I mean, Rudy is a anchor inside. There are so many times when teams don't attack him, but they will go, oh, no, I can't. Or a point guard will drive through the lane and then go, oops, nope, not doing that. And then just circle back out because Rudy is there. Now, I'm not saying that Rudy Gobert is Victor Wembanyama because he's not. He doesn't have the offensive skills. He's on the decline of his career. But he's so important to what the Wolves do, and I've just loved to watch him play so far this year. So back to the turnovers thing, which I'm kind of flopping all around here. Chris Finch in his postgame interview said that his goal is 12 turnovers. The Wolves average about 15.9 turnovers a game so far this year. And they were talking on the Dane Moore podcast with Chris Hine of the Star Tribune, and they were saying that the key to minimizing turnovers is not only like when you have a team that tries to fly the ball around and move the ball a lot, you're going to get some inherent turnovers. But just get rid of the dumb turnovers, right? Get rid of the ones, like, for example, the one where Nickeil Alexander cuts the wrong way in the inbound pass and they get a wide open dunk. The one where they're trying to get Randall in the open court on a cross-court pass and it gets picked off for a layup. Those kind of – the one where Ant gets an 8-second call on the way up the court. That was crazy. But – they need to just get smarter, and they need to play with each other a little more. And I was thinking about this today. Think about Julius Randle. Think about stepping into Julius Randle's shoes. First of all, you're coming off an injury, right? So you think, okay, I'm coming back with this Knicks team. We just got Miles Bridges. Everything's going to be good. I'm going to be able to have a lot of scorers around me, a lot of shooters. Excuse me. I'm going to be able to excel in this offense. And then what happens? You get traded to Minnesota for a franchise icon, one of everyone's favorite players. I mean, some people have mixed feelings on him, but basically the icon of the franchise, not name Anthony Edwards. He's been with the team 10 years. When you think of the Timberwolves, you think of Karl Anthony Towns the last 10 years. You get traded for him a few days before the preseason opener. So you're already coming in. You're coming off an injury. You're replacing an icon. You're joining a team that you have to mesh with super quick. I mean, what? The preseason starts about a month before the actual season. So you have a couple games and some practices to get right with this team. And then you come out on national TV against the LA Lakers, and you don't look good. The team doesn't look good. The team looks horrible, and everyone's yelling, oh, we shouldn't have made that trade. Trade Randall. It's over. I even made a video on this channel saying it's time to trade Randall. And maybe it is. I don't know. But all I'm saying is give a little leniency to this guy. Give him a little time to be who he's going to be, because I don't think any player would excel in that situation. Now, you could say that Cat went to New York and fit in perfectly because that was a different fit. But a ball-dominant player who comes off an injury, gets traded for an icon, gets traded right before training camp, or the first preseason game, I should say, and then is expected to be the second star on a team. Like, let's give it time. He's starting to look better game in, game out. Some days he doesn't have it, and we just go with Naz Reid. That is a luxury that we have. I still say, and I'll say this again and again and again, if I was looking at the starters, the current start, Conley's missed a game, but the current starters have not missed a single game all season. We have not been hit by the injury bug, and I don't want to hear about Terrence Shannon Jr., which get well soon, and Rob Dillingham, because they're not major pieces of what we're doing right now. Will Dillingham be pieces of what we do in the future? We hope so. But right now, he's not part of what we're doing game in, game out. So I don't think it is a huge deal for Rob Dillingham to be down. Some of the other teams have had, like, look at the 76ers, ravished by injuries. Look at even the Mavericks. Luka out. Kyrie's back now, but he was out for a couple weeks. We have had the best injury luck, which is good because, excuse me, because we are building a team, because we have two new players that need to fit in, two starters that need to fit in. But I'm just saying, just like there was last year, there's going to be a time where someone goes down, And someone's going to need to step up, whether it's Josh Minot, whether it's Rob Dillingham, whether it's Terrence Shannon Jr., whether even it's Joe Ingles. We still got that bullet being ready to be loaded. I don't know how much Joe Ingles would play, but we'll see. I mean, I'm just saying, we're having amazing injury luck so far this season, and I hope it continues, but I feel like something's got to give at some point. And I'm not wishing anything on anybody. I'm just saying that our injury luck has been great, and we have to be prepared for when it goes the wrong way. Like, remember, like Chris was saying last episode, remember when we were playing Greg Monroe, and Greg Monroe is the most famous person in Minnesota? Injuries will happen. We had Cat out for a couple months last year. Something's going to give at some point, and we got to be ready for that, and that's development. That comes in practice. That comes with – and I think that's what they're doing right now with getting Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon some rep, and I know Terrence Shannon hurt, some reps in Iowa. Dillingham had a pretty good game, his first game back. But get him some reps. Get him some play time. Let them nourish and get ready for the stretch run when we're going to need them if we're going to make a run this season. But anyway, I think we'll leave it there. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. And actually, one more thing I do want to mention, the upcoming schedule are no cupcakes. It could get a little dicey here because we got the Warriors tomorrow. I'll be at that game. It's a late game. I'm really not happy that they moved the game late to 8:30 because it is a work night. Then on Friday, the matchup we've been all waiting for, Knicks, and then a back-to-back with the Cavs. Excuse me. That's difficult because they got to fly home to play the Cavs. Then we got the Grizzlies on MLK Day, then the Mavericks, then the Nuggets. So it's going to be a gauntlet, but it's a good opportunity for us to show what we're made of. This is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network, and as always, go Wolves.